What if learning a new language wasn't about solving a puzzle, but about forming a habit? Well, today we're diving into a method that promised exactly that: fluency through pure, unadulterated repetition. We're talking practice, practice, and more practice. You know, that question is really at the heart of what's called the audio-lingual method, or ALM. And for ALM, the answer is simple and direct. Language is a set of habits. You don't learn it by agonizing over grammar rules. You form it through intense practice, conditioning your mind and your mouth to respond automatically, kind of like training a muscle at the gym. So, to really get a feel for this method, we're not going to start with some dry academic definition. No way. Instead, I'm going to drop you right into an ALM classroom. Imagine you're a student. Your goal is simple: listen, repeat, and respond as fast as you possibly can. No thinking aloud. So what you'd find is that every single lesson follows this super strict, predictable pattern. It all kicks off with a short dialogue. That dialogue becomes the raw material for a whole series of rapid-fire drills, each one designed to burn new sentence patterns into your memory until they become total second nature. Okay, first up, you mimic and memorize a dialogue line by line. The teacher models a sentence with perfect pronunciation, and you, along with the entire class, just repeat it over and over and over again until the words just fall out of your mouth without you even thinking about them. And now the real fun begins: the drills. In a repetition drill, you're basically a parrot. You just repeat whatever the teacher says. The pace, it's relentless. And that's on purpose. It's designed to stop you from thinking, from trying to translate in your head. The only goal is that automatic, knee-jerk response. All right, next up, things get a little trickier with something called a substitution drill. The teacher gives you a base sentence and then just a single keyword. Your job is to instantly slot that new word in, making any grammar changes you need to on the fly. And these cues just keep changing, right? It forces you to manipulate different parts of the sentence. And the key here, the absolute key, is speed. There is zero time to consciously think, okay, where does this new phrase go? Nope. The correct response has to be a pure reflex. And then for the grand finale, you've got a transformation drill. Here, you have to change the entire sentence structure based on a simple command, like make it a question or make it negative. And again, you have to do it with lightning speed. Okay, and scene. Lesson's over. You can finally take a breath. It's pretty intense, right? Feels more like a mental workout than a language class. So now let's hit pause and really break down that experience to understand the theory that was driving all that practice. So that whole experience we just walked through, it perfectly lays out the core logic of ALM. See how every single action is tied directly to a principle from behavioral psychology? The constant repetition? That's there to form habits. The teacher jumping on every tiny mistake, that's to stop bad habits before they can even form. The bottom line is, language isn't being analyzed here. It's being conditioned. So to pull off this kind of conditioning, ALM teachers rely on a very specific set of tools. They're kind of like the conductors of this linguistic orchestra, and they have a very precise playbook they have to follow. And as you can probably guess, that playbook is pretty much all drills all the time. We've already seen a few of these in action, but let's just check out one more to see how they create this really structured, controlled interaction. Take the chain drill, for example. This one's pretty clever because it gets the whole class involved, creating this controlled, flowing interaction. One student asks a question, the person next to them answers, and then they turn and ask the next student. It turns a simple repetition into a dynamic group activity, even if it is super structured. So it's kind of hard to imagine now, but this super structured, drill-heavy method was once considered totally revolutionary. But where did it even come from? And maybe more importantly, why don't we see entire classes run this way anymore? Let's take a look at its story. ALM basically exploded onto the scene in the 1950s as a direct shot at the old-school grammar translation method. You know the one. It was great at teaching you to read ancient texts, but left you totally unable to order a coffee in another language. But ALM's time in the spotlight, well, it was surprisingly short. It was taken down by a huge intellectual shift in how we understood the human mind. And the person leading that charge was the linguist Noam Chomsky. He came along and argued that, hey, language is not just a collection of habits we imitate. He saw it as this innate, cognitive, and incredibly creative thing we're all born with. Think about it. We don't just repeat sentences we've heard before, we create brand new ones all the time from this internal set of rules. And that single idea, it just completely blew the behaviorist foundation of ALM right out of the water. So after Chomsky, this whole cognitive revolution basically made ALM fall out of fashion as a dominant method. But its techniques and its influence, they didn't just disappear into thin air. They definitely left behind a lasting echo. The entire world of language teaching shifted. The goal wasn't about perfect grammatical accuracy, what they called linguistic competence, anymore. Instead, it became about using language effectively in real situations, communicative competence. Let me put it this way. ALM would teach you to say, I would like to purchase a ticket perfectly. The new communicative approach helps you successfully buy that ticket, even if you just say, 1 ticket, please. Knowing a language was no longer just about being correct. It was about being understood. So here's the thing. While you'll rarely find a classroom today that's pure ALM from start to finish, you can still hear its echo in pronunciation practice or drills for those really tricky verb conjugations. And that leaves us with a final question to think about. In our world of AI translators and language apps, is there still a place for this kind of pure muscle memory practice on the journey to learning a new language?